Charlie Kirk was murdered, assassinated, for the crime of being very good at saying things that aren't supposed to be said. Not because the things he said were bad, but because there are bad people who wanted to stop him from saying things that were good. The greatest gift of Charlie's was his ability to communicate his ideas effectively, persuasively, and with a level of grace and patience that most of us, myself included, would struggle to match. He was assassinated because he was facilitating good faith dialogue between people who disagreed with each other. And there are people in the world who fear that if their ideas are subjected to actual dialogue, actual scrutiny, actual good faith debate, then their ideas will lose. And when their ideas start to lose, they resort to bullets. Charlie Kirk's impact was global, but I'm aware that here in Australia there's a lot of people who probably don't know the work of Charlie Kirk as well as what he deserves. And it's my hope that with this video I can contribute in my own small way to causing people to look him up, listen to him, to his words, to his heart, to his compassion and care, and to his faith. Because the fact that his life has ended doesn't mean that his work has ended. I've gathered 6 videos of Charlie speaking in different contexts, in face-to-face debate, on stage, at events, and on podcasts, etc. And I've sought to use his own words to explain his work, what he was trying to achieve, and why his work mattered so much to so many people. First, here's Charlie on a podcast with Tucker Carlson, where he really summed up in his own words why he did what he did.
Political radicalism needs a catalyst. Political radicalism does not come out of peace, prosperity, rising wages, stable families, church attendance, and happy people. Happy people, grateful people, do not get behind Vladimir Lenin, and they certainly don't get behind Chavez or Castro.
That's right.
People that own nothing, that feel like their property is diminishing, or they don't have property, or their dollar is diminishing in value, they start to look for alternatives. And so the political project in front of us as conservatives should be, how do we actually de-radicalize the country in the next couple of years? That's my obsession.
De-radicalization was Charlie's obsession. His method was honest, fact-based dialogue. And this is really important. People would label Charlie as offensive or as incendiary or insensitive or whatever. No, he was factual. Now, it's true that facts don't care about your feelings, but actually, Charlie did. We'll see time and again throughout this video that he was at pains to express the truth in a way that wasn't needlessly offensive, but also in a way that wasn't watered down. He acknowledges time and again the fact that people disagree with him and that people see things differently. But his crime, in the minds of those who celebrate his death, was that he stood firm on the facts and he spoke the truth even when people didn't like it. Here's one of many countless examples from his podcast appearances where he would willingly go on to podcasts which he knew would be hostile to him in order to bring truth to their viewers.
So there's 1 million abortions every single year, and there's twice as many people on the there's 2 million people actively on the adoption waiting list. So there's really no such thing currently, there could be, but currently, of an unwanted child. So there's 2 million people wanting to adopt, and there's 1 million people that have abortions every single year. So there's twice as many people that want to get a child. Now, there's a longer conversation about making it less bureaucratic without allowing bad people to adopt kids for bad reasons. I'm perfectly open for that conversation. But to answer your question, I don't love the premise. It's a really good question because a lot of people have it. I don't necessarily believe being born in poverty is a death sentence or is a reason to terminate.
Of course not.
No, but abortion is a death sentence.
He literally stopped the room with that one. You could see the impact of that on the girls that he was talking to. Just simple facts, said with compassion, but without compromising the truth. And Charlie believed that there is such a thing as truth, and just that alone was enough to get him into hot water at his regular tent-based events at universities all over the United States of America.
At some point, somebody's truth has to win. Because guess what? Your truth doesn't matter. That's still a truth
You've
claim.
had your truth in this country for the past thousands of decades.
Thousands of decades?
Not thousands. Whatever. That's a little embarrassing. But like your truth has been the narrative of this country forever. You think
Roe versus Wade just got repealed. Abortion was legal in this country for 40 years.
And before the 40 years, what was
and
it?
crime dropped.
Thankfully illegal.
40% after it went.
On top of that,
wait, hold on. Do you think abortion lowers crime rates?
Crime dropped 40% after abortion became legal.
Why is that the case?
It's called a statistic.
Who has the most abortions in America?
Women.
Black people. Is that so? Are you trying to say the termination of blacks in the womb lower crime? That's a very racist argument.
That is not
okay.
You know blacks have 45% of the
I would suggest using African American.
blacks. What?
That's crazy.
Sir, that's a leading question.
Okay, so
Do you not believe in racism?
Of course racism exists. The Democrat Party is still alive and well.
Do you think people are racist against white people?
All the time. All the time.
That's his definition.
Affirmative action is racism against white people. Yes.
Okay.
and Asians as well.
And Asians, that's right.
So I do have a question in that sense. If affirmative action is racism, why are most colleges predominantly white?
Why are they most predominantly white?
Why are most colleges, public colleges, are predominantly white?
We're a majority white country. You realize that, right? So colleges are the depiction of the nation.
Okay.
The one argument that I would agree with, and I'm against systemic racism arguments, the one that I would say, you know what, there was something very wrong is when Democrat Lyndon Baines Johnson came in and destroyed the black nuclear family. If there was one part where I could say, you know what, that was unjust and that has to be undone, it's when Lyndon Baines Johnson went in through the Great Society program with the intent to destroy the black nuclear family.
Okay. So in that sense, do you believe the war on drugs also played a part? Or
Not
do you not
really.
believe in the war on drugs?
Well, look, I mean, I believe we should be very harsh on drugs, but I think I would give some merit to the argument of some government agencies peddling cocaine in the inner cities. There is evidence to show that. I'm not going to debate it. Do I think it has so for example, like there's one number that I'm fascinated with, right? Single motherhood in the black community was about 28% in 1945. Okay? Now it's around 65 to 70%. Why? Are we more racist than we were in 1945?
No.
Okay. So then what happened?
The war on drugs.
Okay,
the
fair
war
enough.
on drugs. The demolishing the nuclear family in a sense.
Right.
And I believe due to the history that's happened, racism is still very prevalent in a lot of the a lot of the systems that are in America, correct?
Yeah. So no, of course not. But I was actually caught by your shirt. You know Malcolm X was super pro-life.
Yes.
I think Malcolm X could teach a lot of the black movement something, because it more so than Martin Luther King, because Malcolm X, I'm getting there. Malcolm X, some people don't describe him correctly as being violent, right? That was a very small part of his literature. He was very big on trying to get black America to succeed despite the white liberal.
Yes.
And
not the white liberal.
He did say white liberal. Oh, you go look up the Malcolm X white liberal quote. And so I think that's interesting. Just think about it. Go look up Malcolm X warned against white liberals owning black America for their own gain, which is exactly what BLM is.
Okay, so back to my initial point. Back to my initial point. You don't believe that my truth can be different than yours, specifically based on race.
Experiences can be different, but there is always a truth. I'll give you an example. We all might have 5 different opinions of a car crash, right? But eventually a truth will be revealed of what really happened. Does that make sense?
So you believe that your truth is the truth that you have found yourself is the ultimate truth?
I would hope so. Yeah. And I'm willing to learn.
And then make America great again.
Otherwise, I think Malcolm X could teach us a lot right now. Yeah.
It's that mix of patience, humour, historical perspective, and compassionate but uncompromising truth that set Charlie apart from the rest of us, and it's true to say that in his case there really is no one else quite like him. Just witness his incredible patience in this next encounter during one of his many stadium appearances and talks around the USA.
How does racism contribute to black-on-black crime in Chicago? How is white people to blame for that?
Oh, actually, matter of fact, that's actually a whole other issue. So let's talk about, so you want to talk about intracommunal violence as it pertains to
so what does the white man have to do with that?
And that's a great thing. I love the red herring that you threw in there.
No,
because, hey, Intracommunal violence is proximal, right? So when we have segregation and we got races sitting in one area and you got another race in another area. Now, we never asked white people, why is white on white crime so high with white people, and never, but instead we focus on black people.
Yeah, so out of the 530 murders in Chicago of the last year, how many were black on black crime?
Hey, I wasn't looking. But you know what
Yeah,
I do know?
well
But
over
you know,
420 of them were black on black gang-related crimes.
Sure.
How is that
Sure.
racism to blame for that?
Let's talk. So now, are we going to talk about over-policing?
I'm sorry, sir. You're kind of demonstrating you can't answer the question.
Would you like to talk about? I mean, we can talk about it. We can.
Okay.
Are you ready to address it, though?
Well,
are you ready to address it?
Yeah.
Because we can talk about black on black crime, but we need to talk about it as it pertains. We need to. Okay, let's talk about it, sis. I'm ready to talk about it.
All right, hold on. So let me just narrow this down. So let me just say this, okay?
All right.
So if you were to rank the 100 biggest problems in America,
yeah.
The fact that I know we're not a racist country is the best example you have. Is
okay,
some
so you know we're not a
story
racist
of you getting
country
kicked out of a
what?
DeSantis rally. If we were a racist country, you'd say, Charlie, I can't go in a convenience store. Charlie, I can't go into school.
And Charlie could speak to a host of different topics, switching effortlessly between culture, abortion, racism, economics, and so much more. And he had perfected the art of meeting people where they were at, acknowledging what was right and real about their argument or about their worldview, without then watering down the truth that he followed it up with. Watch.
My question is, as a member, a leader of a conservative organization that really condemns large government, how do you address this ever-growing power and these monopolistic tendencies without using the federal government and big government? I just would love to know how you propose to.
That's a good-spirited question. You have read your Marx. Good for you, because some people say they're Marxists and they haven't. So look, I think the Marxists are wrong on a lot. We could talk about that in a second. But the Marxists, their fascination with class is not wrong. And there is a place where class warfare is legitimate and ugly and cruel, and that powerful people are trying to stomp on people that don't have as much as they have. Do I think it's as plain and simple as Marx and Engels put out? No, obviously, that's not my position. However, understand that sometimes more regulation can actually be a boon and a gift to those mega corporations. For example, when Facebook goes and they says, hey, we want more regulation for data privacy. No, they don't. They want regulation that only they can afford, so the next social media company like Rumble is not able to pay the same that they're able to pay for that sort of data hosting, lawyer fees, and all that sort of stuff. So look, I think we can both agree, though, crony capitalism or cronyism is awful and wrong, and that entrepreneurial, bottom-up focused solutions is a beautiful thing. Where we will disagree, though, is that if you are a Marxist, and you seem too sweet to be a Marxist, so I'll put that aside, but do you believe by definition that the entrepreneurial activity will result in exploitation and will result in the concentration of one person benefiting from the other? This is where I disagree. I think a portion of American economic activity, yes, is big companies exploiting or lying to people. But the vast majority of economic activity happening in America is beautiful. It's voluntary exchange of both parties benefiting.
Like I said, he was a walking masterclass in how to meet people where they were at and still speak the truth with compassion and humour, and that's what made him so effective. And that's what made him so dangerous. We lost a good man yesterday, and this next video was one that Charlie uploaded only about 8 hours before he was killed, and it illustrates both his compassion and his righteous anger at the hypocrisy of so many of his political opponents. He's speaking in this video about this murder, which the US mainstream media had tried to stay silent about.
Okay, everybody, you've probably heard the situation that happened in North Carolina. Say the name Irina Zarutska. Irina Zarutska was just riding public transit. By the way, she was a refugee from Ukraine, of all places, and she came to Charlotte, North Carolina. And a terrible person, well, you saw what happened. I can't describe it here on TikTok without some sort of community guideline being violated. But if you haven't seen the video, you absolutely should. This individual should not have been on the streets, 14 prior arrests. And it really makes you wonder, why are we putting up with this? Why are we allowing so many people that have committed these crimes to keep on being released? The magistrate judge continued to release this individual, and this is a horrific thing. You know, it's really interesting. The media was totally covering George Floyd, tens of thousands of articles, reconfigured and changed the entire American body politic. Yet when it came to Irina Zarutska, the entire media was quiet, silent. In fact, we forced them to cover the story. Why do you think that is? What was the difference between George Floyd and Irina Zarutska? Why did the left care so much about George Floyd and they couldn't care less about Irina Zarutska? What could the difference be? I wonder. Would love for you guys to leave some comments.
The point he makes about known violent criminals being repeatedly released is one that certainly has relevance to Australia as well. Now, Charlie urges us in that video to remember the name Irina Zarutska, and I agree. But it's also essential that we remember the name Charlie Kirk. The saving grace in Charlie's case is that we have so much of his work already on video, already in the public domain, that his words will continue to change people's minds and lives for years and even decades to come. But I think the thing that Charlie would want to be remembered for the most is his unashamed and unabashed faith, and his articulate and spirited defense of the Christian roots of the country that he lived in and loved so much.
Our country was founded on common law because the Declaration only refers to God 4 times in the Constitution. Doesn't refer to God at all, and it only articulates the structure of government.
So first of all, remember that we were a collection of states and colonies, and you need to read the state constitutions before anything else. 13 out of 13 required a declaration of faith. In almost every single one of the original state constitutions, they had, I profess Lord and Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. Secondly, 55 out of 56 of the original signers of the Declaration were Bible-believing, church-attending Christians. You asked about common law. Well, let's go to 3 principles of common law. Presumption of innocence, due process, and jury of your peers. All 3 are biblical principles. So, and all wrapped into the ultimate biblical principle that you shall not favor justice if you are rich or poor, which is in Leviticus 19, which is the idea of blind justice, which is incorporated also in the New Testament ideal, neither slave nor Greek nor Jew, you're all one in Jesus Christ, which you get the idea of human equality. These are all biblical ideas, but more importantly than that, they say that God was only mentioned 4 times in the Declaration of Independence. Well, that's a big deal. John Adams famously said the Constitution was only written for a moral and religious people. It was wholly inadequate for the people of any other. The body politic of America was so Christian that our form and structure of government was built for the people that believed in Christ our Lord. One of the reasons we're living through a constitutional crisis is that we no longer have a Christian nation, but we have a Christian form of government, and they're incompatible. So you cannot have liberty if you do not have a Christian population.
Charlie Kirk lived his ideals. He embodied them as a husband, father, Christian, and public intellectual who would willingly discuss anything with anyone. And he would do it with compassion and humour, but without ever compromising on the truth. If nothing else, I hope that this video has inspired you to look him up online. Spend some time watching the many hundreds of hours of video that exist of Charlie Kirk doing his incredible work. And hopefully as you do that, Charlie will inspire you to be a little more bold, a little more compassionate, and a little more willing to follow in his footsteps in whatever way that means. And if we all do that, then Charlie's life and Charlie's death will not have been in vain. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. My name's Topher Field. Yes, of course, I'd love for you to like and subscribe and all of that. I'll put some links into the video description for those who want to support my work or find out more about what I do or my books and all of that. But that's not what this video is all about. What I want you to do more than anything else, what I hope you will do after watching this, is to say his name, Charlie Kirk. And don't stop saying his name and don't stop sharing his work, because although his life is over, his work is not yet finished. Now, it's up to us to finish it for him.